Mhm. All right, everybody. Good morning. This is Steve. Happy to see everybody again. Happy you're here. Today, I have a couple of topics I'd like to go over with everybody. The first one is going to be how to make multiple offers for one buyer in a very tight market, we call it. My personal experience on this was when Monterey Park hit only, I repeat, only 111 houses available. And that is like ridiculous. Okay. That is like having 0 houses to sell. And we really had a very difficult time at that point and tried to, get an offer in, get it accepted. And it was very, very challenging. Okay. So the whole idea was we started doing some things that investors have been doing for several years. All right. And we went ahead and, started doing the same type. So what I plan to do now is we'll start out today with the California Residential Purchase Agreement so I can explain a little bit about contingencies. It seems that based on conversations or questions I receive, there's still a consideration or a belief that people have a right to cancel a purchase agreement within 3 days after they sign it. I hate to say this, but I keep repeating it, and I'll repeat it again this morning. There is no such contingency, okay? You might be confused, or the people who are saying this could be confused with 2 items. Number 1 item is the lenders have a 3-day rescission right or cancellation right on certain types of loans, okay? The second thing is people get confused about the requirement on the purchase agreement to present your EMD, your initial deposit, no later than 3 days after signing the contract, okay? However, the failure to do this does not cancel the contract. The contract has to be canceled in writing based on this contingency. Just like any other contingency that is being used, you have to cancel the contract based on the contingency. And it has to state that very clearly, okay? So we want to get started today, and I will be presenting 2 or 3 different ideas for you to consider. And after that, once we get through this one about how to handle multiple offers for one buyer and make sure that you don't get caught. I've had several times in the past where people didn't do it correctly, and their client who was insisting to present 2 or 3 offers on different houses refused to accept the fact that we had told them that if they do not get it canceled on time or do something that would not allow them to cancel, then they would be stuck buying 2 houses. Or if they did not buy the 2 houses, it would allow the seller to collect their collect their offer of an initial deposit or the entire deposit as a part of liquidated damages, which is not something you want to do. So when you're considering to help your clients to make multiple offers, you have to be very, very clear about the times, the dates, and how the contract reads, okay? So what I'm going to present today is we'll just start with the contract itself, and we'll take a look at some of the terminology and some of the questions that I get, all right? After that, we'll move into the nuts and bolts, I call it, or the meat of the idea of how to do multiple offers and still not have a client that's stuck with 2 properties to buy or lose money because they did not get out of the contract quick enough, okay? Or they said something stupid that you did not hear them say, or you told them not to say. So the idea is to make sure that your client does not speak to anybody except you. And then you do all the speaking for everything, okay? Because if they even say the slightest thing to the other agent, for example, or directly to that seller, they are looking for a possible problem. And I will explain to them and explain to you today why and how we need to be extremely careful on anything we put in writing or anything that we use verbally between us and the other agent, or something that would be presented to the seller by accident by maybe your buyer being crazy enough or stupid enough to go directly to the seller, knock on the door and want to talk. So just remember that if your client is not doing the regular buyer routine, which is to make one offer for one house at one time, then we have to be very, very controlling of that buyer. It's a very easy thing to get wrong, and we cannot afford to be wrong because it's money that's going to be lost, okay? All right, so right now I'm going to go forward here into the purchase agreement, and we're going to take a few terms that we want to talk about here. See if we can load it here. All right. I'm not going to waste time going into all the disclosures and everything like that. I'm going to go directly into the purchase agreement. Okay. The key thing on this is to notice where your contingencies are and which ones are the ones that we need if we're going to make an offer on multiple houses and make the offers by one buyer. Okay. So that's pretty much what we're getting ready to do here. All right. Now we're right at the first page of the contract here. We are going to go down a little bit further here where we're going to talk about the initial deposit, which is an item 3. You can see it right now, which is item 3 here. And then it's going to be the initial deposit, okay? So this is going to be the, what do you call it? Initial deposit type of thing, all right? So we have a signed contract. Remember this, everybody. This whole class, you have a signed contract, meaning your client has signed and the seller has signed, all right? So there, the next step is this way. So when you're getting ready to present an offer and you know that it's going to be for several places, okay, the thing you want to do is to make sure you know things that you can do about possibly getting out of it, okay, possibly. Now this one here is D1, initial deposit amount, and it says when additional terms over there where it says how often when it should be done, okay? The issue here is many people confuse it and think that if they can get 3 days and they don't put their deposit down, that everything goes away. No, it does not. The issue is that this is one possible contingency, but I hate to use it, and it is really, really not guaranteed, because if the seller says, oh, no trouble, I'll wait for you, now we're going to have to get into some really difficult things, all right? For example, I've been known in the past to not even worry too much about this initial deposit 3 days, up to at least maybe 5 days or a week, as long as we're pretty clear about collecting the paperwork on the funds for the buyer, and it looks pretty good, okay? So the bottom line is, yes, you could be lucky enough and then have the seller cancel the escrow or cancel this agreement because you did not deliver the deposit. But that is not something you should count on. It's not a contingency, okay? It just says that the seller has the right to cancel the contract, and it doesn't say anything about the buyer's rights, okay? It's only a right of the seller. So please think carefully now about this 3 days to put your money in. Now, I must point out here that as a listing agent, I had one opportunity where it was supposed to be 30,000 and we signed on a Friday, okay? And that would have meant the money should be coming in somewhere in the beginning of the week. Maybe by Wednesday, for example. Well, nothing happened on Monday and none happened on Tuesday. So I started contacting the agent, and it turns out that he has never seen the gentleman again. And I also, to this date, have also never seen this gentleman again. And apparently the gentleman just disappeared. So we had to go back and we had to have the seller cancel the offer based on this item, the fact that we could never locate the buyer and we could also never locate the money. So altogether, the seller thought it'd be a great idea just to get going, right? So thank God that we had the chance to do it. But this is something that you must, I repeat, you must be very, very careful. Do not count on this as a chance to get out of your deal, all right? My experience was we used to call them straw buyers, so I'm guessing it was probably a straw buyer, which we had before. There were several times in the past where lenders would get a straw buyer because they were going to do something that would maybe, if they got caught on doing a loan this way, they would end up going to the government resort location around many areas in this area. And by that, I mean the prison, and it usually is a 3-year term for trying to play games on loans and stuff and use straw buyers. So anyhow, this person just totally disappeared and it was all over. So I want to go over this carefully right now, okay? Just make sure, keep in your brain, there is no 3-day contingency of getting out of the contract based on any reason except what we're going to go to next. But the idea of, oh, I don't want it anymore, I found another house. Is there other ones that I hear? I think I've also heard that my wife doesn't like it, okay, is the other one. And then finally, the fourth one that I've heard actually was a lady that came in and said, you know, I've been thinking about that kitchen and I cannot accept that whole deal at all. It's just a horrible kitchen, a horrible layout. What can I do? Well, at this point, we managed to help her by getting a negotiation that was only for $10,000 so that she could drop and get out of it and go to the next house. So just remember, 3 days is just the time to bring in your initial deposit, okay? There's no change your mind, contact anybody, all right? So I'm going to keep repeating this and repeating it because right now it looks like we're having a lot of people that are putting in I call it multiple offers by one single client. And it was not very common until recently. And it's going to be worse, I think, this time where people are trying to, maximize or make a maximum opportunity for them. If it's not done correctly, though, the contract could get you in trouble and you could be forced to, be in court, being sued by the seller for failure to perform and all kinds of stuff, okay? If you don't have a contingency to get out on. So next after that, I want to go ahead and show you guys another area here. we're going to start going into what I call the terms and the dates and how to count dates, all right? And then after that, we'll come back and take a look at the contingency I'm going to teach you how to use, and I'm going to teach you how to write the offer so that the offer is already stating anything that you want to do, which is done quite often by investors. And at that time, we'll just go step by step, all right? But first, I want to go down here to where you can find every term, and it's listed on one piece of paper, on one sheet, right? I'm just scrolling down here, okay? So you can get a, let's see where it's at here. It takes a while. Okay, there we go. On item number 25, I hope you can see me right here. It says definitions and instructions, okay? All right. This is a very, very important part of the contract. I know most people do not get involved with this, but I want to bring it up today. People have been asking me several times about, does the word days mean this, or does the word days mean that, or any type of word, right? Well, here is what I want to point out today. For example, authorized agent is one thing. As is condition has been added to it. I like that. We started that several years ago, and now it's up here. It explains it very clearly on what as is, okay? And then here we go, counting days. This is my favorite one today. I hope I got it. Let me uncover it just a bit there. Okay. I'm going to start here. It's quite large, okay? Okay. It says number one, and this is important, and I see it all the time, all right? The first day after an event is the first full calendar day, okay? For example, if somebody did something yesterday evening at 6:30 p.m., like signing something, then the counting doesn't start at 6:30 p.m. The counting starts today, this morning, after midnight, okay? So today is the first day of the calendar days, okay? So I want to bring that up, all right? And here it gets more details about the what we call notice to perform, okay? It says if a notice to perform is delivered at 3 p.m. on the 7th calendar day of the month, or acceptance of a counteroffer is personally received at 12 noon on the 7th calendar day of the month, then the 7th day is 0 for purposes of counting days to respond to the NBAP. Okay, so basically it's just what they just said there. It's the first full day after. So that day that's a partial day is called 0. All right, so that'll help you a lot in here. Okay, and then here contingency removal dates, and the 8th day of the month is day 1 for those same purposes. All calendar days are counted in establishing the first day after an event. All right. Okay, all calendar days are counted in determining date upon which performance must be completed, okay? Now, calendar dates, remember, is Saturday and Sunday, 7 days a week, right? And it's not business days, which are Monday to Friday. So we're working on that. Now, after acceptance here, it says if scheduled performance day, including close of escrow, lands on Saturday, Sunday, or legal holiday. So here we go. After acceptance, guys, this is a key item here. After acceptance, if the scheduled performance day for any act comes on a Saturday, Sunday, or legal holiday, the performing party shall be allowed to perform on the next day that is not Saturday, Sunday, or legal holiday, okay? So the bottom line basically here is that, yes, we have 21 calendar days to do something. If the 21st day happens to be on Saturday, Sunday, or a holiday, then the extension is automatic to the following day that is not a Saturday, Sunday, or holiday. All right. So basically, let's say it's on a Saturday, then you're going to be Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday would be the day, because Saturday and Sunday don't count. All right. In other words, you wouldn't go, Saturday is when you're supposed to start, then start counting on Sunday. That is not possible. Okay, so you have to go to the next day that is not Saturday, Sunday, or a holiday. All right, so this is the things we want to. Now, here is something that I need to be very, very careful with you, and I don't want to confuse it. All right, I just told you basically that things are on calendar days for other things. There is always exceptions in humans in the United States. I'm not really sure exactly why, but if even our spelling is got exceptions. The best one I've learned is I before E except after C. For example, the word receive, right? So Americans, we are very, very unique, okay? I won't make any more comments about it. So as normal for us, we always find some way to get an exception because all of these rules that are 100% always are not completely covering everything that happens, okay? Welcome to the United States. All right. It says day or days here, number J. Go ahead and circle it, do what you want to do with it. But it says day or days means calendar days, okay? So when you have 10 days, it's calendar days. However, there is one exception, only one exception about calendar days being the requirement for anything that's given on a certain time. You know, like 10 days for inspection, 21 for loan, anything like that, right? So the days right here is going to be, it says, delivery of deposit to escrow is based on business days. Business days are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all right? So what we want to do here is make sure you work with your client to understand that business days are the days that are being used for deposit, okay? For example, remember the 3 days we were talking about to deliver the deposit? Those are for business days, okay? Now, the 10 days to make the inspection, those are calendar days. Are we clear yet? Okay, so very good. So I wanted to get into this and give it a shot, okay? So these are the key things I'm bringing to the table today that you need to be able to explain it, talk to it, and keep it in your mind. It's very, very critical and very, very important, okay? Now, I'm going to make a little bit more few things in here. They're not very important at the moment, but might be. Basically, there's terms in here, meaning like legal authorized signer, a person has authority to sign as specified, whatever, right, in 3233. Repairs are now including pest control. They used to not. It used to be a separate deal for termite, right? Okay. Now, the other side here is time is of the essence. I'd like to get into that, all right? When some people try to slow things down, hopefully trying to get your client to go away, we call it, or to cancel and go on to the next house, we can always go back at them and say, hey, you know, you've got to get us an answer back right now. And that would be the, you know, that would be, this is called time is of the essence. Once this gets into more examples, we're going to see that I believe there's still $1,000 fine that the court is allowed to work on if it goes to court later on because of people failure to perform, meaning time is of the essence, okay? So I just want to let you see what's going on here. Now, the next thing we want to do is we're going to go back up here and we're going to go back up to the contingency I want to speak about today, which is going to be the contingency of inspection, okay? So, but first we're going to go back into here and see if I can find what I'm looking for. There it is, right here. All right. For the moment, you can see something that's called R on the left, right? You see the R? Okay. So what we're trying to do here is we're going to do the R. This is where you put your get out of jail free or get out of the contract with the, you know, as a part of the contract, okay? It gives you another opportunity. Basically, we all know about the contingency removal, right? We have X amount of days to remove the inspection contingency. True. So we can do that. Everybody knows where it's at. So I won't do that. But down here, here's what we want to do next. Okay. We are going to state and write it here is that opening escrow must, okay, I'm sorry. We'll start it again here. Buyer has right to complete inspection contingency before before escrow is opened. All right. I'll go back at it again. Buyer has right to complete inspection contingency prior to the opening of escrow. I've done it in the past. The max I've ever taken was 10 days from the time the contract was signed until we opened escrow so that the buyer could complete their inspection and the contingency. All right. So this is one way to put it in here. You can start out and put it in the terms. All right. If you need any help on how to phrase it, I'll just try it one more time here. Buyer has right to complete inspection contingency prior, and make that in big letters, prior or before. I prefer to use the word before. I know we all went to college and everything like that, but we're still have to make sure that we have the correct level of English that would cover the majority of our clients, okay? And because of that, we try to make sure that we use something that's easier for everyone to, be able to work with, all right? So the word before should be in capital letters, or at least I would, before opening escrow. So I would use capitals on all of that, or at least something a little bit bigger or darker so that people can see it, all right? So under R, this is where you would add it. And this is in addition to the contingency part of it, okay? Now the whole other thing that we're going to be working on for inspections and everything is, all right. The inspection type deal is to make sure that we get our 10 days or whatever days that are allowed. You can change those days if you want. I prefer not to do anything whatsoever with it. Just leave it alone as it is, okay? So basically, you could also come back down here on these terms, maybe on a counter offer or whatever, and you could also say it differently. Buyer has 5 days before opening escrow to complete inspection contingency, or how many days the buyer needs. You could also write it differently. So if the basic idea is to get your buyer to have enough time to do the inspection before opening the escrow. And you're saying, but what about? And there is no what about, because we have a contract here and it says that the escrow is opened no later than 3 days after the signature. But the signature date, time, as soon as both people sign that contract is in effect. They can determine when they want to open escrow, and they can determine anything else about how the thing's handled, okay? There is no law that says escrow has to be opened at a certain time, or believe it or not, there is no law about a close of escrow, because I learned that the hard way from an REO that was done with a gentleman that is a single man operation in Palm Springs. And that gentleman pointed out to me after 2 weeks, when we didn't get a close of escrow, no documents, that he said he's doing his very best to help Bank of America. So just remember, there is no, the contract does not state how soon the escrow has to close, okay? I mean, the documents have to be presented to you, all right? So it's sort of like very interesting, but it happens. So I would put here, buyer has X amount of days to complete the inspection contingency before opening escrow. Okay. So, or that would mean that the initial deposit would only be presented to escrow after the escrow is opened, right? They have 3 days after escrow is open to present it, all right? So that's pretty much it. Or I'm sorry, not after the escrow. They have 3 days after the contract to present it, unless we have this written in here in R. So the bottom line is get the 5 days for inspection before opening escrow. That way, the deposit cannot be, your initial deposit cannot go to escrow unless the escrow is opened. You see what I'm saying? So don't worry about that part of it, okay? In other words, escrow is not allowed any longer to open escrow without having your deposit. We used to do that, I have to admit it. I would call on a Friday and I'd say, okay, do me a favor. My client's bringing their money on Monday and let's open today. And they would say, okay. But nowadays the government has put a lot of pressure, I guess, and every escrow that I know now, they do not like that, and they would like you to, when you get the money there, then they're ready to open, okay? So that's where we're at. Now, right at this moment, I've done what I can do here. And then I would like to point out a few more things here, guys, that you need to be a little more careful on. We're talking about sellers that are, trying to find ways to keep buyers, okay? I'm not sure how soon it's going to go, but I'm guessing that probably 2023, and based on what they did for the Fed with their, interest rate hike, I'm not sure how that's going to affect sellers. They hope it's going to slow down the prices, but I have questions about that. There's too much money running around the community. So, but anyhow, the bottom line is we need to take a little bit of a watch and see what's going on and watch the way the market rolls. Okay. Now I'm going to come out of here and get back over to our second subject today. Hold on. There we go. Let's bring it here. I'm going to scroll down here. Okay. Right here, I want to get into the contingency removal here. I just want to go over it one more time so everybody understands how it works, okay? Contingency removal here, I think everybody's fairly certain, but there's ways to do this thing, okay? It says buyer removes contingencies, right? You've got several choices here, and when you're doing that, you could, do all kinds of things, all right? For example, they've got it set up so that we can do the loan contingency removal, right? Appraisal contingency, there's B, 2B, right? So 2B, and now here's C. This is the one that we want to do it, okay? This is what's going to protect you. So do not ever remove investigation of property inspection, okay? Even though they ask you to on the purchase agreement, no, you don't ever want to do that. Now you can shorten the time, maybe from 10 days down to 5 days or whatever, but I would not recommend at all to shorten that one, okay? Unless your client wants that house so bad, all right? Then we'd have to let them go ahead and do it. Okay. Okay, the Part D is different. That's for seller documents that didn't arrive, right? Or should have got here, or they received them and they removed their contingencies based, those. Preliminary title report. All this kind of stuff is really simple. And then the bottom line here is only person that can remove all buyer contingencies is the buyer, okay? So that means there's only a buyer signature on this form. This form, do not send it to the seller to sign. You simply send it to the seller to have a copy, okay, a notice, all right? And the seller is not required to send it back to you. The only thing the seller would be required to sign is if the seller had contingencies, and usually they do not, all right? But there are some, some examples of contingencies, like find a replacement property or close on a replacement property. That's about the only things that are possible. So I just want to remind people, the buyer signature is about the only signature you're looking for or should be expecting on the deal. Do not give this to your seller and ask him to sign it, please, okay? It's not necessary. It goes in the file and given to them, or just notify him that I have the contingency removal. Here it is, and just give it to him, right? And if he says, do I sign it? You say no, and then you go on, all right? So that will get that out of the way. We're getting down to pretty good today. And then I'm going to come over here. Okay, let's keep going. All right, now the next thing that we're coming up here is agent commission sharing and referral fee agreement, okay? And then also we're going to do additional agent acknowledgement. All right, I'm seeing more of our agents cooperating together on one property. For example, one would represent the buyer, one would represent the seller, and we're seeing more of that. Now I'm also seeing more of two agents working for us on one property, and we only have for example, the buyers or the seller, one of the two, okay? So I wanted to get this form out here a little bit better for you guys, and I'll just bring it up right now. Okay. This kind of thing in the past has been done pretty much with a written agreement between the agents, and the broker would come in and sign it behind. Now we have a copy of something that just sort of explains what's happening, okay? Says multiple associate license working with seller or multiple associate working with buyer. So you click the correct box, okay? And then you put the broker name, and maybe there might be a team, whatever you thought, okay? So this would be the separate written agreement. So this is just a notice, all right? And that would be probably let the seller or your client have a copy of it if it's important, okay? Because that way they would know that this person is a part of the team that is working directly with the buyer and seller, okay? Now let me bring this up here. All right, okay. It says all parties understand and agree that wherever the name of any licensee above is indicated in the agreement or related document, and if they represent who, right? The other licensee shall also be deemed to be named. For example, listing broker and seller signatures are not necessary if this form is only used to modify a buyer thing, okay? So selling broker, buyer signatures are not necessary if this form is only used to modify a listing agreement. So the bottom line is you only need the same party agent to sign on this one. So if the seller does not have a second agent, then he does not sign this, all right? Only the people that are going to be working with that agent would need to sign, all right? If they would, okay? So be sure and take this over and let them see it. Otherwise, you should set it up so that only one agent works with the client. But it's better for this to be listed as both agents working on it. So this is what I was trying to bring up today about what has changed and how to handle it. If you have any other questions, you can come back to me on it. Now, the next thing here that we're going to is, let me see, what am I doing here? Oh, my finger's still working. All right. Okay, so the next thing right now, we're going to go into sharing versus referral fees, okay? Both have advantages and disadvantages, all right? Did I get it? Yeah. Okay, there we go. Agent commission sharing agreement. Terms of the agreement is going to be pretty simple. The agreement begins on which date and who's involved in this agreement, okay? So you've got associate license or a regular license person, and whoever is part one, one agent and it's two agents, okay? And you'll of course put your license up there. Okay, expiration date. I would say right here is something to remember. You have the right terminated by either party as specified below. So there's either a fixed term, which I, have seen people working together on possibly one listing or one client, and they've been very happy with it. So the bottom line is you can either put a 12-month or how many months term from the commencement date, or you can just put a date that it's going to be finished. Says in the absence of written termination by either party, the agreement shall continue for successive periods of equal duration. Okay. Or you can put down that the agreement shall automatically terminate on the expiration date. So there's a lot of choices here. You'll have to make the decision between the two of you, and you can decide, right? All right. Now, the other thing is the termination notice. You can give like 30 days notice, or as it says here, completion of transaction. So there's a lot of, information on this. Now, the other side here is a licensing requirement. They have to remain licensed. Lawyers are talking here. So you've got to, keep your license up to date. Now, here's going to tell you what this is covered. This would be the one that's more common in the past right here was AI. Okay, it says agents own property. Because of the fact that the agency disclosure in the state of California states that we must do our very best and due diligence at each transaction. It makes it very difficult for us to actually do it correctly if we represent ourselves in a transaction. What I'm saying is you want to have the right as an agent to go ahead and act like a regular person. So that would be the fact that you would not be required to tell the buyer any information about other houses around you. For example, comparable sales or anything like that you might know, or that you might know something else about. All right. So that is the key purpose in my strong suggestion, that you make either a agreement with another agent so that they represent you, and then later on you'll represent them when they need it. Okay, that's one way to do it. See, that kind of deal. But there's all kinds of opportunities here or ways to handle that using this form. So family members, I've heard so many stories about how difficult it is to handle a family member. My suggestion is to bring in another agent to make sure things are done correctly, okay? Because it's really hard to tell somebody that I'm sorry, but you're my brother or sister, but I just, you can't do this. It's going to kill you. And I don't want to see you have a trouble, okay? And a lot of times people get very angry about this because of whatever reason with the family. What do you do? You're calling me stupid? And it just gets worse and day on and day, every day in and day out, right? Okay. Now, the next thing here is what we call limited activity, which would be for certain locations. For example, they only help you in Diamond Bar, or they might help you in something else, but they don't help you anytime else, all right? Or even just better, the best way to do it is to put the property and address right in there, okay? You could end up with a client that you guys share possibly, and that would be in number BIII, right? And that would, list the client. Sometimes you have a client that doesn't do well by himself, and you need extra help to sort of keep track of what they want and share some of the load to make sure everything gets done, okay? All right. And here is some other idea that you could come up with and everything. Now, these things are things that we used to do on just a blank piece of paper. We'd write it down and then we'd sign it, okay? But now they've gone through this and they've got it pretty well set up for people, for our agents, okay? All right. And here's pre-existing client relationships. This you need to talk about before you start filling out the form. Uh, Basically, you're saying that this client has been mine, and if they come back, they're still mine. Or you're going to say, if it comes back, then I will give you a percentage point. These are things that questions that you have to work out together and then use it, okay? And now we're coming into compensation. For example, pre-existing clients, what are you going to do? Shared clients, all right? Okay. And broker instructions, this is where the broker has to be involved and everybody has to sign something for the broker so the broker knows exactly how to split the commission for each person, all right? And the best way is to get either the form or get a blank sheet of paper or whatever the broker needs or wants so that you could, take care of it that way and they have something at hand. The broker cannot just just offer a split commission without having something in writing from both sides. It's too dangerous. All right. Now here's how to do shared expenses. Personally, I would guess that people should deduct expenses from the gross amount of the commission that would be coming to both of them together before they split it. And that would be my recommendation, is that any expenses that were legit, uh, you know, subtract from the top. So let's say that you get 10,000 as the total commission for the two agents or for that property, we'll call it that way. Then you start deducting all the expenses from both agents, and at the end of that, whatever's left over, let's say 8,000, for example, that is split according to your agreement. So that's my suggestion on how to do it. But there's several ways to do it, okay? And you all have to decide. Brokers usually don't like to get in the middle of this. All right. Salesperson owned fictitious business name. I don't see this happening right now, but you could possibly have a team name, and then that would be how it would be handled the way the team is paid. Okay. All right. Okay. How to handle different things, like if they decide to, let's say there's a big argument on a Monday and they decide on Tuesday they don't want to work together. Then at that time period, they would have to decide how to, separate all the things they're doing together and what to do with pre-existing clients and future transactions and shared clients. So here's more paperwork for you. It's pretty involved, okay? New broker, this would be something that, wow, this would be complicated, guys. That's why there's nothing except an explanation of an idea, all right? Okay. Dispute resolution, yes, this is pretty simple. You got to take care of it. And it right here at the bottom is the best way to say it. It says, all agree to resolve disputes by neutral binding arbitration. Associates agree to timely notify other, mediate all disputes and whatever. And it was everybody works together to come up with a resolution. That's the way it works, okay? And it's going to be negotiated out. Now, additional agent acknowledgement and if different brokers for agent one, agent two, okay? What we have as an issue here that I try to work things out on this would be working with another broker is or another agent who works for another broker that's very, very challenging sometimes because they have different cultures and different things that are in place. So if you're going to do that, make sure everything is written down. It doesn't matter whether it's a time you start in the morning to work on that project together or who spends the most, like, do I take out the client today and you take out tomorrow and then I take out the next day? Or do you take them out one day a week or whatever? All this small stuff has to be decided, all right? And that's where you're going to have more trouble setting something up. For your own brokerage, this should work out fine because they have the same culture. So I'm going to recommend this for the people that are, same brokerage. Now, one of the downsides here is like I just mentioned, two different brokerages, two different cultures, rules, checklists, just so many things are different, right? So the bottom line is the downside is to use this form for anyone and a different brokerage. I would probably recommend, if you can, come up with a way to make it a referral fee, all right? And then we can, go from there. That would probably be your best way to, make sure it's okay. Now here, we're going to come down to get the broker signature because the broker has the responsibility for all listings and all transactions in a brokerage. So the broker would be required to go ahead and sign it. All right. So you're going to have a broker and another broker. There'll be two brokers here if it's different companies. For a same company broker, the associate sign, and then the broker signs at the bottom here. Okay. And then for the different brokers, there's other signatures down here at the bottom. Okay. All right, so there we go on that one. We've done pretty well here. I hope we're moving just about the right speed on it. Now, the key thing here is referral forms. I see we're having several coming in, and I would like to get everybody to fill it out correctly the first time so that I can get it done and we don't have to send it back and forth several times, okay? So the biggest problem I see is terminology and the fact of who signs, okay? Now, this upper part seems to be done fairly well and people do a pretty good job of it. Referring broker is a person that refers their client or that client to the recipient. Recipient meaning receive, okay? So referring meaning you give and recipient meaning you receive, okay? And that's the two brokers, all the details, that's pretty simple, right? Just remember that the firm name is the recipient broker, okay? And then the referring name is also the brokerage firm name. It's not the broker themselves, okay? And then here's all the details, okay? And you can make other comments in here to cover things, and you have other terms, that kind of a thing, okay? So right now, here is the referring broker. And I want to point this out, guys, okay? Brokerage name here, okay? It is not the broker themselves name, okay? So let's move it up a little bit forward here. Okay, so referring broker, meaning the broker gave it. Here's the firm name, and here is the broker in themselves, okay? And then this is the broker assigned it or the office manager, whoever is authorized, okay? But it will be usually by the broker. Now, here's where the confusion comes, is right here at this area. That part is very simple, but it gets people confused the most, all right? When a broker is being the designated broker for a company, they have, the DRE issues a special license to that company so that the broker will use that license number anytime that he signs anything for the company. For example, he has a personal DRE number, and then there's a company DRE number for each company that he represents, okay? So anytime you see referring broker license number, that is going to be the company number. For example, Universal Elite, that license number there is 02121645. 02121645. That is the number that will go in there, all right? So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and let that one happen, all right? So you do not ever put the broker's personal number in there, okay? Now I'm just going to go here for a quick second to make sure. There we go. All right. Now for the tax ID, I'm going to read it to you, all right? It's 85-088-4163. So at the bottom place here, this would be the company ID or the company DRE ID, and then the tax ID is 85-088-4163. 0884163. The first two numbers are 85. So 85-0884163. And that's the correct way to do it. Now, if we are the recipient to receive, now we'll be working here just like I explained before. It's going to follow what I explained. It would be broker would be the company name, Universal Elite Realty, and then by the broker, and that would be Philip. And it says broker or the office manager, and print their name right here. Now, their broker license number is only the company broker license number, 02121645. Okay, so you see everything from here to here is the same, except that the tax ID is that right there. So this is what we need you guys to pay a little more attention to. I know it gets confusing when you look it up, and myself or even Philip, we have different numbers at different things. Okay, so just do us a favor and try and keep in mind that the company is what everybody's here to work for. Okay, we all work for the same company. All right, and that's company numbers are the ones I just gave you. If you still have any questions, contact me, and then I'll go ahead and work it out. Okay, so that's pretty much what I've done here. Now, the thing that I'd like to point out for referral fee versus sharing is the fact that when you go to for example, a new home company, and you take your client and you give your client to the new home company, guys, that money that you receive is not anything but a referral. Okay, you are no longer the agent, actual agent, once you refer your client to the new home company. And that's when you end up with a piece of paper saying that you brought this person to their community, right? So just remember that when you want to be good friends and make things smooth, at the new home company, don't pretend or don't act like your client needs this and needs that, and I'm going to do everything, right? Because that's not going to work, okay? All that does is make everybody unhappy, number one, and it messes things up quite a bit, okay? Because they're expecting you to bring in the client, introduce them to them, and then they take over from there, okay? And then the only time that you would be back involved is if by chance your client has something that's a problem. Then you might call the agent directly and say, hey, my client's got a problem. Would you mind talking to them? All right. And seeing they have this problem and ask me to present it to you. But after that, then you're back out again. Okay. You are not the agent. You're not, you don't go in there and go like, boom, 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 boom. I want my agent wants this, my agent wants that. You're not involved, guys. Okay. So just remember that. The other side is even for another referral, like this one here. I like this personally because, and I like the new homes. We have no responsibility basically on anything at all that happens, and then we get money. So that's pretty cool, I thought. So let's just try not to be involved when you're not supposed to be involved. Because if somebody decided that because you were involved, that means that you were trying to be their agent still, then they might come after you as being like, you told me to do this, you told me to do that. And you are not allowed to do that personally because you don't represent that company. So keep your mind straight and clear about a referral. Just be happy, introduce them, and sign whatever paperwork they want. And if it's not this kind of form, it will be another form. But the bottom line is, don't get involved with things that you don't need to. Sit back, go get more business, and call your client maybe every so often and say, hey, how's it going with your new home? Are they working on it? And that kind of deal. Just sort of keep in touch with them. But don't ever promise you can fix things or do anything like that, because it all has to go through the other side, and your client has to go directly to them to work with them. All right. So I'm going to leave it at that. I just want to bring a couple things. I see that people are not really helping themselves. They're getting into something they don't need to. So just keep a receptor, keep contact with your client, but do not act like you're their client or you're their agent. Okay. So all right, so that's pretty much it today. I'm recommending that any chance you get, do a referral, guys, and see what you can get out of it. I personally have been referring things into Texas, for example, at 50%, which is not bad, especially on commercial. So I've also done Florida, I've done Georgia, and I've done North Carolina. There we go. Oregon, I've done a couple up around Bend for California people wanting to move up there. And I've been doing about 35%. If you look at the CAR magazine and NAR, the CAR magazines at the very back, I believe is the referral page, I call it. And right now it works between 25 and 35%. Okay. So just remember, if anybody asks you, we have two opportunities here. Number one thing you need to remember is that I have a title company web account, so that I can go into their software and their website and pull up information in any location that they have an office in. Okay. And believe it or not, it seems to be 50 states worth. So to this point, I haven't tested it, but when I went to Georgia, I could pull up this house, I could pull up the information and get an idea on what it's worth and get an idea of who owns it, to make sure what's going on. I like to know exactly who owns stuff, that when they're asking me to get somebody to be an agent for them. All right. Oh yes, I have also done New York State. I just remembered that one. That's also. So you can do it that way. Basically, you make a connection with certain types of agents. Then you keep those relationships. I have Nevada also. I've still got relationships with Nevada. I've got relationships with Georgia. I've got New York State, Florida, Texas, and it's not bad. I mean, I have people that own property in Florida, but they're living here. They'd like to get rid of it. I find them a very good agent, and then we work together, and we ended up getting the right prices for them and helping them, make sure they ask a lot of the right questions. Okay. Now, basically, what we try to do is just remember, you are not able to be the agent. Okay. The real agent is located in that state. Your license is only valid in California. What you are doing is you're calling the agent and asking them if they could do this for the buyer, and you're speaking and on the buyer's half, but you're not telling them what to do, because you're not a real estate agent in that state. Okay. So the bottom line is, it's sort of like, okay, I sent you my client. My client is having some difficulty working on this thing with you. Could you spend some more time with them, for example? You see what I'm coming from, right? Now, the other side is for the future. What you do is you have a client here that wants to invest, and then you can bring that client to that same agent because you have a working relationship. Okay. And you could also make money for that referral for an investment type of thing. Okay. And then the other thing that I've seen, the final thing, has been people that are selling property in that state, and you introduce them to an agent over there. And then like maybe there's a death in the family, for example, and they need to sell the property. You take care of it here, and you do it by phone, and you make the connection. So there's a lot of ways to make money nowadays, especially on referrals. So keep in mind that referrals are very, very, I call it free money practically. Okay. All you have to do is have a good connection and make sure that they're good at doing their job. And then you have clients over here that you can say, hey, you have a house in Las Vegas? Oh, no trouble. I have a person that would be happy to help you. And, I'll put you two guys together. Now, did everybody hear what I said there as my parting comment on this one? You've all heard it, right? I am not the agent. I am going to put this person and this agent together so that everything works fine. I am not going to be anything whatsoever in the whole transaction except an introduction, which is a referral, okay? So just remember, do not let the person here think that you're going to be doing something there on their behalf, okay? You got to make sure that the bottom line is, thank you very much. Oh, you have a Vegas property you need help on? No trouble. I will contact an agent and, see if what I can do and see what we can do. And then I'll introduce them back to you and see if you like them. And if you like them, then we'll put everybody together and everything will work out fine. And if something happens, get back to me and maybe I can find another agent. But as far as me doing the transaction, no, cannot be done. Okay. You'll have to work with the agent directly. So just make sure that when you're working on a referral fee agreement or working a referral, make sure you keep it in everybody's brain. You are referring only, okay? I know it's very easy to get involved too close. And then all of a sudden, these people are running everything through you to the agent. That is not really good, okay? So you try to keep the whole idea is that, yeah, you need to go ahead and contact the agent directly, or I will contact for you, but you have to, sign all the paperwork and do everything, right? And then I am not your agent in Las Vegas, okay? And I'm not your agent here because there's no property here, okay? All right, so anyhow, right now, I think we've got pretty much to it. It went a little bit faster than I expected. I'm trying to see if there's one other thing we could pull up here and spend a little extra time on. There's a possibility here. I've had one question here on an option agreement that we could go into, which I suggest we go ahead and maybe take a look at it. Okay. I don't expect us to get into this yet, but it's a possibility. You might have a tenant, for example, or you might come across a tenant who wants to purchase a property that they're renting from the owner. All right. And, this used to be used for only people that are probably middle class or something like that without much money. I actually had a question about using this idea for a $5 million house, and the person that was the wanted the option was the one just wanted to rent it for 1 year, and with the option to buy it at the end of at the end of the year. And it's the first time in my life I've ever seen that price of house, but there's nothing to stop it. So I would recommend you guys think about using this. All right. I'm going to put it on the table here. I've checked it. I've double checked it. And just changing the dollar value does not change the agreement, guys. So just, consider it. Maybe somebody decides they'd like to come over and live in the house for a year. And that way the owner gets the year money, right? And at the end of the year, then they decide whether to buy it or not, or go on, or maybe continue renting. Who knows? So it's a way to make money and a way to build a different business. This could be a pretty good niche market where people are international. I mean, they're coming from outside the United States, and you set up a lease with them so that they pay all of the lease at once, possibly. And then at the end of the lease period, then we go ahead and see if they want the option to buy. But it's all set up. It's all taken care of. It's pretty easy to do. It's really just write down everybody's ideas here. And you have the option period and you have the how to exercise everything. So what I'd like to do here is just to put it out for you guys to consider. And why don't you all take a look at the form itself? and I'm going to try and get into it in more detail next time. What we're trying to do here is to pretty much it's an old way of doing things, and it's a new method or a new twist to it, I call it. Okay. So instead of doing the old 150,000 small house out somewhere and then letting the renter, do this or do that with it, we're taking a very, very affluent person who wants to consider purchasing, but doesn't just want to purchase now. They would like to live there and see how they like it, and they're willing to pay a high amount of rent to cover the seller's expenses or whatever the needs are, right? Sort of like, I believe there was somebody that rented a big house in a state that was having the spatial football game called the Super Bowl. And the gentleman was paid $200,000 for the weekend for the use of his mansion by a very well-known celebrity. Okay. And to me, that was like, wow. The old days, that would never, ever be anything like that. They would just take over a hotel floor and then go on, right? If they wanted that. But now all of a sudden, 200,000 for a week to a person to have their mansion. So all kinds of opportunities now that are changing. Life is different, right? Okay, so basically, I just want to bring out two more things before I break off here for the option agreement, okay, that we'll get into next time, all right? Okay, number one is option E with the double E is the tenant, and option OR as the landlord, okay? So just remind you that if you, the biggest trouble people have is remembering the E and the OR, okay? So the option E is the tenant and the option OR is the landlord, okay? So just keep that in mind, and we'll go over it next time. Appreciate you guys, everyone showing up. I'm here. Just you give me a call, you contact me, whatever you'd like. I can, find out an answer for you, whatever it takes. Just check in with me, okay? And then for the future here, I'm going to try and get into sky slope, and that would be coming up as one of our things that we are going to be aware of how sky slope works. I think that might help everybody, including our TCs, so that if our agents are trained and more of a bigger picture of how it works, then they would be able to cooperate with their TCs easier, and everybody could get things moving a little bit smoother. All right. Wish you all a happy, rest of the week and everything like that. I just am very pleased to be a part of the team and happy that we all, everybody's here. So just remember, you have my WeChat, you have my phone, you have my text, you have my email. Reach out anytime and we'll go from there. Have a good day. Gotta go, guys. See you.